हाँ तो भाई वेलकम बैक टू द चैनल। आज यार मैं आया हूँ हार्वर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी में और मैंने सोचा यार वहाँ पर भी एक वीडियो तो बनाना बनता ही है। तो जिसको नहीं पता यार, हार्वर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी इज़ वन ऑफ द मोस्ट प्रेस्टिजियस आईवी लीग यूनिवर्सिटी जो स्टार्ट हुई थी 1636 में एंड इट्स अबाउट 400 ईयर्स ओल्ड यूनिवर्सिटी। और मैं काम करता हूँ यार, मुझे ना इस यूनिवर्सिटी के बारे में इतनी इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं पता, तो मैं ना अभी एक गाइड जो यहाँ पे टूर प्रोवाइड करते हैं उनको पकड़ता हूँ और फिर अपना वीडियो आगे कंटिन्यू करेंगे और आपको हार्वर्ड की सारी इन्फॉर्मेशन प्लस स्टूडेंट लाइफ यहाँ कैसी है वो सारी दिखाएंगे। ठीक है, तो भाई चलो फिर। हाँ तो भाई मैंने यार अपना टूर बुक कर लिया है और यहाँ पे बुक करने के लिए यू कैन गो टू हार्वर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी वॉकिंग टूर और मुझे ये पड़ा है $22 का। तो अगर किसी को भी टूर लेना है तो इतने पैसे लगते हैं। फ़िलहाल मेरा टूर जो है 15 मिनट में स्टार्ट होगा, तो तब तक यहाँ पर मैं थोड़ा चिल करता हूँ और फिर टूर स्टार्ट करेंगे।
First off, y'all should have been checked in and gotten stickers. If you have not placed those stickers somewhere visible for our tour guide to see, please do so now. If you have not received a sticker, please check in with me after my announcements.
All right, if you follow me, we'll make our way to our first stop.
Yep, I got you.
हो गया भाई टूर स्टार्ट।
So hello everybody, on behalf of Trademark Tours, I'd like to thank you for booking this tour today. My name is Dylan, I will be your tour guide today. I am a sophomore here at the college and I study government, and I am from the great state of South Dakota, which is in the upper Midwest of the United States. And today's tour is going to have three major themes on it. The first of those themes will be Harvard culture. So one of the things I like to point out early on my tours is how we refer to our fields of study here at Harvard. So a lot of other universities, when you study something, you major in it. Well, here at Harvard, we call those concentrations instead. So since I study government, I'm a Gov concentrator here at Harvard. The second theme for our tour today is famous Harvardians. So Harvard has had many famous and notable alumni, some of whom I'm sure you can think of just off the top of your head. And I'll point out some of the places associated with them today on this tour. And the third theme for our tour today is that Harvard is very old, at least by American standards. So Harvard was founded in 1636 by the Massachusetts Bay Colony, which makes it the oldest institution of higher learning in the United States. However, it is not the oldest in North America. There is a college in the Dominican Republic that is actually older than Harvard.
तो अब चलते हैं यार हार्वर्ड यार्ड के पास।
Just right behind me here is Johnston Gate. Johnston Gate is one of the oldest and most historic entrances to Harvard Yard. It was built in 1889 by the same firm that built the Boston Public Library, and it's probably my favorite gate that we have here at Harvard. And what makes this gate unique is actually what lies on the other side, which is the historic Harvard Yard, which is the heart and the core of Harvard's campus. And inside Harvard Yard is actually where we have the majority of our freshman dormitories. So what's really interesting is when the freshmen move in during the fall, they all pass through this gate as they go to their dorms for the first time. And what's even more spectacular is if you drove here, you actually get to park the car in Harvard Yard right in front of your dorm. So my family drove here, so that was actually a really neat experience. But nonetheless, it is said that should be the only time that you pass through this gate as an undergraduate here at Harvard. Because if you pass through this gate more than once while you're studying here, you will be cursed with bad luck for the rest of your 4 years here at Harvard. So therefore, I made it my mission to only go through this gate once, because classes are hard enough as it is, and I don't need bad luck working against me either. So that being said, you can go through Johnston Gate, but I'm going to go around Johnston Gate. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of Harvard at this stop. So Harvard was founded in 1636 by the Massachusetts Bay Colony, which makes it the oldest college in the United States, as I said before. And when it was first founded, though, there wasn't much going on here at Harvard. That was because we didn't have any books, any teachers, any land, or any students. And actually, it wasn't even known as Harvard when it was first founded. It was originally known as Newton College. And it wasn't until the year 1638 when a man by the name of John Harvard donated his library of about 400 books, 700 British pounds, and his pasture land to the college that they finally decided to name it Harvard University. And when they got this donation with the books, they decided they were going to build a library to put them in. And that's why they built Harvard Hall, the first Harvard Hall, I should say. Because this is not the original Harvard Hall. This is the second building of Harvard Hall. This one was built in the 1800s, the early 1800s. So you might be wondering, what happened to Harvard's first library? And there's kind of a legend behind this. So back in the 1760s, it was a very difficult time to check books out from the library here at Harvard. It was so difficult that you actually had to go to the university president's office and ask to check a book out. So that means most students and professors, if they were working on a paper, they had to finish it in the library if they were using a book. And so one day, a student's paper was due the next day, and it was getting late one night. And he was working on his paper, and he realized that he was not going to finish it on time. And like any Harvard student, he really cared about his grades. So he kind of came up with a plan that probably wasn't the best plan, but it probably would have worked, in all honesty. He thought, who would notice if there's a book missing from the library for one night? You know, I take it to my dorm room, finish my paper, and bring it back first thing in the morning. Who's going to notice the difference, right? Well, that's what he did. And when he came back the next morning to return the book after finishing his paper, he saw that the library was gone. It had actually burned down overnight because somebody left a candle lit in the building. And this was very devastating for the university because we ended up losing 95% of the books we owned in that fire at the time, including all of John Harvard's original donation, except for one. And that was the book that the student had. So at this point, the university president comes running across the yard and starts weeping at the sight of the burned library. And this student has a hard decision to make, whether, to give the book back and admit that he stole it from the library or act like nothing happened. And he ended up making the right decision. He gave the book back, and the university president thanked him and then turned around and suspended him. So I guess honesty didn't really pay, but we still have that book to this day. It is titled Christian Warfare Against the Devil, World, and Flesh. So it sounds like a fairly intense read, I'm guessing, but we still have it, and I think that's pretty neat. So I'm going to take this stop to talk a little bit about Harvard as an institution, because Harvard as an institution has changed quite a little from when it was first founded. And I like to compare it to the United States in a sense. When Harvard was first founded, it was just the college. And there were none of the graduate schools at the time. And throughout the 1700s and the 1800s, we began to add on our many graduate schools, starting with our medical school and continuing on to add our law school, our business school, as well as 8 other graduate schools. And Harvard has also become a much more diverse and inclusive place as well. So it was actually in 1848 that Harvard admitted its first African-American student by the name of Beverly Garnett Williams. Williams was unfortunately not able to graduate from Harvard because he ended up contracting tuberculosis and dying from it while he was here. And it took Harvard another 20 years to admit their next African-American student. And his name was Richard T. Greener, and he actually was able to graduate and became the dean at Howard.
तो अब चलते हैं अपने जॉन हार्वर्ड से मिलने.
So this here behind me is the John Harvard statue. The John Harvard statue is perhaps the most notable and iconic symbol of Harvard's campus. This statue is said to be one of the top 10 most photographed statues in the United States, which I can believe because there's always people out here getting a picture of the statue and rubbing that bronzed toe for good luck. But I always like to say it's somewhat ironic that we have this statue on our campus. And that's because here at Harvard, our motto is Veritas, which is Latin for truth, meaning that we're all about the pursuit of academic truth. However, I always like to say that this man up here is seated upon a throne of lies. We call this the Statue of 3 Lies. So I'm going to read the bottom inscription on the statue, and I want to see if you can guess any of those 3 lies. John Harvard, founder, 1638. He was not the founder. It was the Massachusetts Bay Colony that founded Harvard, so there's one.
The year?
The year is wrong. It was 1636 when Harvard was founded, and I'll give you a hint for the last one. It has nothing to do with the inscription on that statue. That's not actually John Harvard on that statue. So you might be wondering who's up there then. Well, here at Harvard, we always like to say that it's modeled after the wonderful campus tour guides, but we don't have the facts to back that up. So to understand why that's not John Harvard, you have to first understand we have no clue what he actually looked like, because his last remaining portrait burned in that library fire I talked about earlier. So to understand who this is, you have to understand how we name things here at Harvard. So here at Harvard, we like to name our upperclassmen houses, which are dormitory buildings for upperclassmen students, after our past university presidents.
तो मैंने यार हार्वर्ड में एक प्रोग्राम भी कंप्लीट किया था और इसकी मैं पिक्चर्स आपको इसमें दिखाता हूँ जब मैं हार्वर्ड में पढ़ रहा था और इस स्टैचू के पास भी मेरी फ़ोटोज़ हैं तो दिखाता हूँ। अब आगे चलते हैं और आपको दिखाता हूँ यहाँ की सबसे ज़बरदस्त बिल्डिंग।
This building right behind me is actually our freshman dining hall, as well as one of the largest lecture halls we have here on our campus. So this building here is called Memorial Hall, and it was built as a memorial to all of the Harvard students who fought in the American Civil War on the Union side. And it looks a lot like the Great Hall from Hogwarts in the Harry Potter movies. So if you've ever seen the Harry Potter movies, it looks pretty similar. The one thing I would change about this space, however, is I wish the chandeliers floated like they did at Hogwarts. I mean, but I guess I can't complain too much because the butter here is better than it was in the 1760s. So.
तो अब चलते हैं यार अंदर से दिखाते हैं आपको बिल्डिंग। तो अब चलते हैं यार यहाँ की सबसे फोटोग्राफ जगह के पास।
So if you can imagine where we're standing right now is the stage, and this area out here is the audience. They can fit thousands of folding chairs into this space. And just this last May, Tom Hanks stood right about here as he delivered his commencement address to the graduating class. And I like talking about our commencement speaker because what's really interesting to me, at least, is if you are the commencement speaker here at Harvard, you actually get an honorary diploma. So we've actually had some pretty notable dropouts give the graduation speech, like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. And so I found myself wondering often, how can I do what they did and still get a diploma from Harvard? How can I drop out and still get a diploma? So yeah, if you have any ideas, please just send them my way. I would very much appreciate that.
और अब चलते हैं यहाँ की फेमस लाइब्रेरी को देखने।
This is the flagship library of the Harvard Library System. A little bit about the Harvard Library System. It is the world's largest academic library system, and it is the United States' third largest library system after the Library of Congress and the Boston Public Library. It is then Harvard's library system. I believe we have about 20 million volumes spread out between 35 different libraries. And this building right here just happens to be the largest library that we have in our library system.
तो अब थोड़ा स्टूडेंट लाइफ के भी बारे में जान लेते हैं।
Place to go get a bird's eye view of campus. So I'd study up there quite a bit last year when I was a freshman. And we've also had some notable alumni come out of Weld Hall, including the physicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, the man we can thank for Pluto not being a planet anymore. Pluto should be a planet, in my opinion. And we also had U.S. President John F. Kennedy also stay in Weld Hall. What's really unfortunate about that is his room is no longer intact, actually. They ended up putting an elevator shaft right where his room used to be when they renovated the building. So therefore, here at Harvard, we like to say, even if you become president of the United States, Harvard will still find a way to give you the shaft. The elevator shaft, that is. You know, elevator humor has its ups and downs, folks, so. Yeah, that's enough elevator jokes. Okay, I'm done with my cheesy jokes. Anyway, so this building right behind me here is Gray's Hall. Gray's Hall was built in 1863, and it was the first building with running water in it here at Harvard. And therefore, it earned the nickname of the Harvard Hilton. And it's still known as the Harvard Hilton because of its very large common rooms in this building. We've had some notable alumni stay in Grays Hall, including the actress Natalie Portman. Barack Obama's daughter stayed in Grays Hall when she was a student here at Harvard. And we also had one very infamous alumnus stay here, which is Ted Kaczynski, or the Unabomber. So,
Mathematician.
Grays as well. And I actually ended up staying in Grays. So I guess I can add myself, I'm not sure if I can add myself to that list, but I also did stay in Grays when I was a freshman.
भाई आ रहा नहीं आ रहा मज़ा। और यार ये वाला वीडियो ना मैं चाहता हूँ कि जितनी इन्फॉर्मेशन मैं इनसे ले सकूँ ना वो सारे डालूँ। तो कईयों को बोर भी लग सकता है, बट इन्फॉर्मेशन पर्पस के लिए ये वीडियो बनाया मैंने, ठीक है। फ़न के लिए तो वीडियो बनाते रहते हैं हम यार बहुत सारे। आपको पार्टी वार्टी दिखाएंगे रात को अगर मैं यहाँ रुका तो जितने भी यहाँ पे फेमस पब्स या क्लब्स हैं वो भी दिखा देंगे आपको यार अगर मैं रुका तो।
1, 2, 3. Perfect. And at that point, nearly 1,000 students go running through the yard absolutely naked. Ready? 1, 2. I'm kidding. Yes, this happens twice a year during December and May. It's quite frightening, and I don't know how students do it in December because it's absolutely freezing, but I can tell you it does happen. So anyways, that concludes our tour today. If you'll stay with me for 3 brief announcements I have. The first of those announcements is that if you could give this tour a 5-star review on any of your tour reviewing platforms, we would really appreciate that. Once again, my name was Dylan. I was your tour guide today. If this tour was not worth 5 stars, please let me know at the conclusion of today's tour. I'm more than willing to talk about what was right or what didn't seem right about today's tour. The second thing is I will be going to the Harvard shop at the conclusion of today's tour. Harvard shop's a great place to buy all of your Harvard merchandise. Currently they have a 2 for $35 t-shirt deal going on, which I think is a fairly decent price for a t-shirt. And the third thing is that I do accept tips. I really hope you appreciated this tour. I know that I really do appreciate anything that I can get in tips because I am a college student. However, there's no obligation to tip whatsoever. I accept applause as well. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
हाँ भाई, तो हुआ टूर ख़त्म। और अब यार मैं चलता हूँ इनकी जो शॉप है ना हार्वर्ड शॉप में, ये भी आपको लगेगा तो दिखाई देता हूँ। इसने अगर हार्वर्ड की टी शर्ट लेनी हो तो वहाँ से ले सकता है। तो यार अब मुझे लग गई भूख, तो मैं आ गया हूँ यहाँ पर शेक शैक पे और यहाँ पर एक बर्गर दबाऊँगा और उसके बाद देखेंगे क्या करना है। तो यार अब मैंने ऑर्डर कर दिया है और ऑर्डर आने के बाद आपको दिखाएंगे कि क्या क्या लिया भाई। तो ये हो गई अपनी पानी की बोतल और अब देखते हैं और क्या क्या है। ये मैंने लिया है ओरियो कुकी का शेक जो मेरा फेवरेट है यहाँ पे, और थोड़ी रैंच, और ये रहे अपने फ्राइज, और ये रहा अपना क्लासिक शेक शैक का बर्गर। और यार वीडियो पसंद आए तो कमेंट करके ज़रूर बताना और मिलते हैं फिर अगले वीडियो में।